All right, let's just jump right in. We have all sat through those mandatory HR training sessions, right? Where they hand you the official company playbook. But what about the rules that aren't in that handbook? That's what we're talking about today. The huge gap between the training you got and the unwritten rules you actually need to know to get ahead. So that's the big question, isn't it? We're going to peel back the curtain and look at some real-world scenarios that show you the hidden dynamics of power, influence, and how organizations really behave. All the stuff your formal training conveniently leaves out. First, let's do a quick recap of the advice we all know by heart. These are the official rules, the foundation we're told to build our entire careers on. And yeah, these all sound pretty familiar. Be a proactive team player. Communicate openly. Take initiative. I mean, on the surface, this is all solid advice. But here's the problem. Following this playbook, and only this playbook, doesn't guarantee success. Why? Because it doesn't paint the whole picture. Not even close. So that brings us to our first unwritten rule, and it's a big one. Perception is reality. This is where what people see, and maybe more importantly, what they don't see, can matter a whole lot more than the actual work you're doing. Just look at this classic case. You've got Sam. He's doing everything HR told him to do. He's being transparent, he's advocating for himself out in the open. Then you have Dana. She plays a totally different game. She has one single quiet conversation. So, who gets the project? Dana, every time. And this is where you see the huge gap between the advice and what actually works. The official rulebook says, be open, but the real world shows us that those quiet, back-channel conversations, they signal a level of trust and insider status that public campaigning just can't compete with. And this is not a fluke. Check this out. Two managers are going at it, competing hard and very publicly for a VP job. They're doing exactly what they think they're supposed to, but the job goes to Tomas, a guy who wasn't even visibly in the running. So why did he get it? You can bet it's because his campaign happened in conversations far, far away from the public stage. So here's the bottom line on this one. Visible effort doesn't always equal influence. The moves that really matter are often made behind closed doors. Just understanding that this game is being played is the first step to navigating your workplace way more effectively. All right, so this whole idea of hidden conversations, it actually points to something even bigger, a more fundamental, unwritten rule. The corporate system is designed first and foremost to protect itself, not necessarily you or your coworkers, but the system as a whole. Let's break down what that actually means. Think about this situation. I bet this feels familiar to a lot of you. A project completely bombs, and you try to do a postmortem to figure out what went wrong. You start asking around, trying to find the source of a bad decision, but everyone just points to someone else. And what happens is this perfect closed loop of blame. The project manager points to the VP points to sales points over to engineering, and engineering, they point right back at the project manager. In the end, nobody is actually accountable. The harm is completely authorless. So you have to ask yourself a really important question here. If no single person can ever be held responsible for a failure, what is this structure really designed to do? What is it actually protecting? Well, it's protecting itself. It's a concept called diffused responsibility. The system creates these complex processes specifically so no one person can ever take the fall. This preserves the stability of the entire hierarchy. That solutions mindset you're told to have, a lot of the time, it's just a clever way to get you to stop asking uncomfortable questions about accountability. And it's not always about blame games. The system has other, more subtle ways of protecting itself. Take this example. Your whole team is completely underwater, just swamped. Then a confusing new strategy gets announced. Logically, people should push back, right? But they don't. Why? Because they are too exhausted and fragmented to even think about organizing a response. So think about that for a second. That feeling of being constantly overwhelmed, it might not be a bug in the system. It could actually be a feature. When everyone is just trying to keep their head above water, nobody has the time or the energy to challenge the status quo. The system stays stable, and that new strategy gets pushed through without a fight. Okay, so we've talked about perception, and we've talked about how the system protects itself. That's great, but so what? How do you actually use this information? Now we're going to get into how you can start reading these signals to figure out your own strategic position and make much smarter career moves. All right, let's put these ideas to the test with one last scenario. Picture this. A department loses a bunch of people. You've got Robbie, who crunches the numbers and documents the unsustainable workload. You have Keisha, who vents about it to her coworkers. And then there's Jordan, who says nothing and just quietly absorbs all the extra work. So, take a second. Based on all the unwritten rules we've been talking about, who ends up in the most vulnerable spot down the line? Is it Robbie, the data guy, Keisha, the social complainer, or Jordan, the silent workhorse? The answer, and this might surprise you, is Jordan. See, Ravi took a risk, sure, but he also showed off valuable analytical skills. Keisha built some alliances, which has its own kind of value. But Jordan sent a really dangerous signal to the system. He signaled that his capacity for work is limitless and his personal boundaries are basically non-existent. He made himself the path of least resistance. And that right there is the absolute key takeaway. Quietly absorbing an insane workload doesn't make you a hero. In the cold, hard logic of the system, it makes you a resource to be fully exploited. You have essentially taught the organization that your boundaries don't need to be respected. Look, I want to be really clear here. The point of all this isn't to make you cynical or jaded. It's about making you strategic. It's about recognizing the real game being played so you can navigate it with your eyes wide open, protect yourself, and make intentional choices instead of just blindly following that official and very incomplete rulebook. So I'll leave you with a little homework. Take a look around your own organization. What are the patterns you see? Who really gets ahead and why? What is the single most important unwritten rule that you need to figure out to truly succeed where you are?